Hey, welcome to the Blockchain Revolution video series. Today we're going to talk about NFTs. They are going to play a significant role in business, probably not immediately, but over the next few years and decades, we're going to see many aspects of business and commerce completely revolutionized by NFTs. So we're going to break down what exactly does that mean and how can we sort of look at some of these changes with a forward-thinking lens so that we can start to prepare for them now. So the first thing to do is we're going to talk a little bit about what NFT means. It actually stands for non-fungible token. This probably could win an award for one of the worst marketing labels for something, especially considering the significance and importance of NFTs. So before we're going to get into what an NFT is, let's just break down this word fungible. Also, bizarre word to use so widespread in marketing around blockchain stuff. Fungible just means exchangeable. So the perfect example of something that is fungible is cash. So if I had a bunch of $20 bills and I needed to give you one of them, you probably wouldn't care which of the $20 bills I gave you because for all intents and purposes, they are the same. They're exchangeable, they're interchangeable. There is no difference really between one $20 bill and another one in terms of our ability to use it, trade with it, buy stuff, etc. So the opposite of being fungible is being non-fungible, which means not interchangeable. So there are many things in our world that you can't just swap one for the other. So a great example of that would be an airline ticket. So if I have an airline ticket on a specific date for a specific flight and a specific seat number, I couldn't just trade you, or the airline couldn't just give me a different one and have there be no impact there. Like airline tickets, I mean, forget about Southwest for a second. Like most airline tickets are very non-fungible. They're unique. They're not interchangeable because there are some qualities about them that, you know, that don't translate if you were to just swap it for one another. Another thing that's just a good example of something non-fungible would be a work of art. So if you were to make a painting and it is a one of a kind, that while there could be like prints made of it and replicas, the original itself is unique. So the main concept with NFT to just remember is that uniqueness matters. And there is something about the thing that you're turning it into an NFT that means it's not the same as others, even those that might look like it. So we're going to break down, I think I have about 9 different things here on this list that the NFT technology is going to change regarding the world of business. We're not going to go into them super deeply. These are also the initial set of use cases. Just like we saw with the internet, as adoption of this technology increases, we're going to see more and more use cases arrive. And I think it's actually hard for us in some of these things right now to even imagine some of these use cases that are a decade or 2 decades away because we just are still thinking in our kind of current world. All right. The first thing on my list that NFTs I think will have a significant impact on are the luxury goods market. Luxury goods have a problem that not too many other industries have, where because they are high ticket items, there is a problem with counterfeit. So think about like luxury watches like a Rolex, or even some very high end designer handbags or clothing, haute couture high end fashion. You want to make sure that what you're buying is the original. So let's just use Rolex as an example. If you were to go and buy a Rolex using the NFT technology, you would also be issued this digital asset, this NFT on the blockchain that verifies that the NFT or the watch itself is authentic. And there is cool technology now that kind of puts a little tracking code type of thing into the actual physical object themselves so that that can be paired up and sort of a one-to-one, that this Rolex with ID number 12345 actually matches this NFT. And then when you go to sell the Rolex, if you chose to do that, you actually sell the NFT as well. And that is kind of how the financial transaction plays in. If you watched any of my other videos, one of the key things to really understand about blockchain technology and digital assets is that anything that you own, an asset that you own, what ownership really translates into is a series of property rights connected with that asset. And a Rolex watch is no different. So if I own a Rolex watch, I have a set of rights that come with it, one of which is the right to sell it to somebody else. And that would be kind of one of the things that's being part of the transaction on the blockchain. You also have the right to maybe lend it to someone, maybe the right to use it as collateral. There's a whole series of different property rights that accompany that, but that's just something to remember. So when we talk about a luxury good like a Rolex, being put onto the blockchain, we're not talking about the actual watch itself. We're just talking about the property rights associated with owning that. So it's almost like a contract or an agreement. That's what's actually getting put onto the blockchain. And that's what can be bought and sold and traded and whatnot. And that's going to apply to a lot of these things in here. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is identity. There are some kind of dark dystopian concerns about identity being tokenized and putting on the blockchain, but for the most part, like if you have a driver's license or a passport, again, non-fungible, like I can't swap my driver's license with somebody else. That is unique to me. And you could potentially lose your license, or we also have issues where people make fake IDs. So this technology being on the blockchain could verify that my identity is not stolen. It is legit. I have not made it up. I actually had my identity stolen through my taxes one year. I worked at this very large company, and someone in the finance department responded to a phishing attack thing through email, and like they sent foolishly the W-2 file for like 50,000 employees to these scammers who like immediately filed fake tax returns in our name. And so my social security number was compromised. I have to now, when I pay my taxes, have to use this PIN number to sort of verify that I'm legit. And so that type of a thing where so in my case, that first year, like 2 tax returns were filed in my name with the same social security number. And if we'd had some kind of NFT technology that kind of verified your identity, that type of scam hopefully would go away, because it was a real treat for me to deal with. Secondly, kind of related to that is this idea of credentials. So let's say you go to school and you get a degree of some sort. Again, kind of like with the luxury good things, right now you could make a fake degree. You could lie and put something on your resume that's saying you graduated from some school and maybe you didn't go. So having some credentials being stored on the blockchain that are verified to be authentic could save employers who have to verify education background. It also could make it very easy for people to just scan a variety of different criteria. Right now, the academic system generally, like you go to school and you get like a degree, like a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, or some kind of graduate degree. It's possible with credentialing and NFTs, you would get like specific skill qualifications, skill credentials, so that some employer could say, oh, this person's good at XYZ. And it's just going to maybe change the way that we evaluate candidates in the world of employment for business, is that your credentials and qualifications could now be stored on the blockchain, be verified as authentic, and kind of make it easier for you to just confirm that somebody, in fact, has the skills or degrees that they've claimed they had. All right, next, tickets. We talked about plane tickets, but there's also an issue historically with fraud-related things in the concert ticket world, that people would make fake concert tickets. You get to the thing and it's not real. So having blockchain-issued tickets to events, concerts, as well as theater and other types of things where, again, generally they're non-fungible if you have an assigned seat. There's also this idea in this world called semi-fungible. So let's say you bought seats for like a section, and it was like you could sit in any seat in that section. That is semi-fungible, in that there are a bunch that have the same qualities, but they're generally like sort of unique compared to the other ones. And then you have even just tickets for like a general admission at a concert. Again, a little bit semi-fungible because they're usually for that particular day. So you wouldn't want to swap one day with another. You wouldn't get the same level of access. So I think we're going to see some really neat things regarding events and ticketing with NFTs. All right, next on the list would be fine art. I mentioned this in the beginning, but if you are an artist and you create a work of art, you want to have that authenticity. There's also a neat thing with NFTs utilizing the technology that's referred to as smart contracts, which are little computer programs that kind of accompany the NFT on the blockchain. And they're like if-then statements. So an example for a fine art smart contract would be something around royalty payments. So if I'm the artist, I create this really cool piece of art, I sell it to person number one, and then they hold it for a while, and then I become super famous, and now my painting is worth more. In the current model, I'm kind of like screwed. Like if my painting got sold from person one to person two, I'm not part of that transaction, and my work has now become worth more, but because I sold it, I don't really get to benefit from that increase in value that happened after the sale. However, with smart contracts, you can embed a condition that is, if art gets sold, every time a royalty payment is issued back to the original creator. I think we're going to see this royalty payment come up a lot across a variety of different industries, from architecture to real estate to music. But fine art is a great example where artists now won't be kind of penalized financially if it takes a while for their art to become worth a lot. They get to collect payments on an ongoing basis each time the art is sold. All right, music, similar. The current model of music production is generally not that favorable for new artists. The music production world, the sort of agents and record labels, they tend to make the most money. Granted, they take on a lot of risks, they have a lot of overhead and whatnot, but it's not very easy in the current system for a musician to have a direct relationship financially with fans. You could have a fan club, which has been around for a while, but if I'm going to buy an artist's music, it generally goes through sort of the music industry and even newer players in the sort of like Spotify, iTunes world. But NFTs would allow an artist to mint, issue their music and sell it directly to a person. And let's say you sold an entire album and it was accompanied by an NFT. Again, remember, the music itself is not likely going to be in the NFT. It's the ownership rights associated with that file and some sort of authenticity verification that this is not a bootleg, this is a real one that the artist has issued. Probably could have a smart contract functionality in there as well. So if I owned an album and I decided to sell it to somebody else because I'm a music trader, then the original artist who issued the work would get a royalty payment, which is pretty cool. All right, next we have collectibles and memorabilia. So this stuff has been around for a long time, from the world of like baseball cards to sports jerseys to other, fiesta wear. Like there's a lot of things in the world that people collect. And there is a desire to verify that something is in fact authentic. So let's say you had a jersey signed by some famous football player. You could have someone sort of certify that this really is his signature or whatever, and the NFT would accompany that. Now, again, the shirt itself is not on the blockchain, but the property rights associated with owning that shirt then become represented on the blockchain, which can make them possible to buy and sell, and also this verification of authenticity. Books are also likely going to be issued on the blockchain. Same idea that if books are sold multiple times, sort of in the used book market that has been a big part of Amazon the last couple of years, that now the original author could get royalty payments for their work being sold and resold. Also, same idea where now the author could have a more direct relationship with the actual reader, where currently it goes through this world of publishing where the publisher makes the book, then it goes to some kind of distributor and ends up in a retailer in the case of like a physical book. And even with an ebook, generally most of them seem, I think, to still go through Amazon and Kindle. And so there's a lot of people that have to get paid along the way. So if this world of self-publishing continues to grow and an author decides to write a book, they can now issue it directly to readers and retain more of the revenue and profits from their own work. All right. And then last I had on this list were this idea of agreements or contracts. So this is huge in terms of scope, but you think about all the contracts you potentially have with people. They could be an employment contract. It could be a loan agreement. It could be, selling some shares in your company. We're going to do the next video is going to be on tokenized security. So we'll get into that stuff in greater detail. But a lot of these agreements that we make can be represented on the blockchain. And sometimes you would buy and sell them, but not all of the NFT technology is about sort of trading. Like I'm certainly not going to trade my identity. So the contracts, again, would just verify that this is an authentic agreement. It becomes immutable once it's on the blockchain, which means nobody can change it. So you won't run the risk of one party trying to claim that there was some other term or something in this agreement, because once it is published to the blockchain, it is there for forever. I don't think you can delete from the blockchain very easily. So make sure you upload the right one. So I think across the world of business, we're going to see that some things that right now require trust or are susceptible to counterfeit and fraud, we're going to see some of those go away as the blockchain is able to help verify authenticity. We're going to see some very exciting new business models emerge for the creators of assets, architecture, real estate, music, art, where someone creates a thing. And I've left real estate off of there. So I'm going to do a whole separate video on real estate, but let me just add that right now. if you buy and sell a house, there's a series of property rights associated with that. Those can be represented in the blockchain. Houses are unique and that generally, it has its own address, it has its own qualities, it has its own, appraisal system, and you own buyer and seller. And so if you were to buy a house from someone else, it could be done through the transfer of those property rights on the blockchain. And also could make a lot of these markets much more liquid. So liquidity refers to how easy it is to buy and sell something. So if I have a house somewhere and I only can sell it sort of through the local realtor network in my area, then my ability to sell it might be diminished. But if that house was an NFT on a blockchain available at a global exchange, my ability to sell it could go up dramatically. And if we start to get into fractionalized real estate, which we'll cover separately, that means yes, then you could have a lot of people buy into something. But the NFT technology will allow for the original. So let's say I'm an architect, I designed this amazing, cool house. It's issued as an NFT. Therefore, the first home buyer buys it. Things are great. I get my, my fees for creating it. And then buyer one goes to sell it to buyer two. And this is where the change will happen, is that if a company's a smart contract that has royalties, that the original designer or architect would get a cut of the sale each time it is bought and sold. And so that's a really neat way for a lot of the creators of the world to get ongoing royalties for their work as it continues through. All right, so that's a quick summary of NFTs. Those are only 10 of the use cases. There's going to be a lot more. But the key thing to remember is that it stands for something being non-fungible, which is just a bad word choice for unique. And the blockchain is storing the various property rights associated with owning an asset, and whether that asset is art or a home or a collectible or a book. Every time you own something, you have rights associated with that. And that is what is going to be represented on the blockchain, which will make it easier to verify that they're authentic, make easier to trade in some cases, and will also kind of change how some of the financial business model payments work. So, all right, we'll see you in the next video.